Today is going to be a fairly easy day, I think. Let's make sure that you've got some of the background that you absolutely need to be able to survive this this test. What test? Don't worry, there's no test today. But this is the last day of new material. What does that mean the next time we meet? Review, and then day after that, the test. So test is coming Tuesday of next week. What's a typical question? Well, it's going to ask you things like, where is inverse? I'm going to on purpose do this wrong. Like here, here, and here are where you can do inverse sine and inverse cosine and inverse tangent. That's not it. Would you please make me the right drawing that shows where you can be? These are called the range of inverse sine, sine, and cosine. And then also label the dead zone and the negative zone. Because if you're in those zones, your angles have to be negative or your angles won't exist because you're in the dead zone. I also have some simple things that'll keep you out of trouble. If you're doing an inverse sine problem or inverse cosine or any of the inverses, they will have given you the sides, so then you can figure out the what? The angle. How many angles would there be that would be the answer? How many answers are there? Only one. All right. So if you were doing inverse sine, here's where you should have put it, from here to here. And it touches, and that matters. Here's where inverse tan goes, and it doesn't touch. And that matters sometimes, because if they ask you to do tangent right here, it doesn't exist, because that's an asymptote there. All right, then there's inverse cosine, and that's from here to here, and it touches. The only one that doesn't touch is tangent, because it's got asymptotes. All right, so this one was cosine. This red one was sine. And the blue one was tangent. Okay. Next, like little foundational thing you have to know is if I give you two sides of a triangle, if this is 2 and this is 7, you got to be able to figure out that third side. That's going to come up a ton today. Would you just find me the hypotenuse of this triangle? And I gave you a shortcut way that's 10 times faster than a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Bodie, what does it start with?
2 squared plus 7 squared.
Yep, they're all under square root. 2 squared is 4, 7 squared. I always start with a bigger one, just in case I'm subtracting. But I'm not in this case, I'm adding. You get square root of 53, raise your hand if you did. Awesome. Then if this had been the key angle, and they were asking you for like tangent, you would go 2 over 7, and you wouldn't have even needed this. But if they were asking you for sine, you'd say, what's sine of that angle? Opposite over hypotenuse, and you just use that in your answer. All right, so let's do one more like that, except one side is x, one side is 1. This is a right triangle. Square root of, don't overthink this. Jaden, what do you think? Plus 1, yep. All right, now be careful on this next one. This side's 2x, this side we don't know, and this side is 1. A lot of people are going to make a little mistake on this. Be careful. Would you, in a moment, you're going to share what you think that third side is with the kid next to you. There is multiple ways to mess this up. Remember, math rewards careful people. All right, before I reveal the answer, please talk to the kid next to you and see what you guys think. Or go group right in 3 right here. Well, of course, there's a square root, right? And then, did you remember that we are not on the longest side and therefore it's a minus? That would be one way you could have messed up. Okay, the next thing. I got to square this 2x. A really common mistake is to say 2x squared. That is not correct. Why not? Because it's all of that squared, which when you square it is not 2x squared. When you square that, what do you actually get? Did anybody have 4x squared? Raise your hand if you did. Ah, a few of you caught that. Math rewards careful people. 1 squared is 1. Okay. So, why would we ever use this? Because let's say that we drew this and we were then asked, if that's the key angle right there, we were then asked, what is cosine of it? Well, cosine would be adjacent over hypotenuse. What if they asked me for tangent of it? Opposite over adjacent. So, now we're ready. This does not have any x. You don't need them, but they're coming. See if you can draw this in the right quadrant. That cell phone needs to go up in the phone jail. Can't be using that during this time. Okay, so, Devo, start off with, tell me what quadrant I cannot be in. Not using it, but you can put it back. And put your phone in the backpack, and then, yes. Here's why I can't be here and I can't be here, because we're doing inverse cosine, and it's only allowed on the top. And then, wait a minute. Did you say quadrant 1 or 2?
1.
1 is correct. Okay, because it's positive. See, cosine is positive. I personally would have written it's like cosine of theta equals 4/5, but that would have had 2 answers under normal trig. So then I remind myself this is not normal trig, but there's restrictions, so that's why I had to cross off these, because that's the only places inverse cosine can be. And now it's positive, so it has to be there. And then adjacent hypotenuse. This must be 3. 3, 4, 5. Yay. Am I done? No. Jaden, finish it off. Sine of it. So it's final answer is opposite over hypotenuse. 3 over 5. Who had 3 over 5 before she even said it? Okay. All right, moving on to the next one. This is still a normal one. Struggling waking up, aren't you? What's your benefit of help? Cross off the wrong quadrants and put a triangle in the right spot. Dia, can you tell me which ones I cannot be in because I'm doing arctan?
The right, or the left.
How about we use like quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so 2 and 3.
Quadrants 2 and 3 are out. You are correct. And I also like to cross off these because tangent can't be there either. It can't touch those. Okay, and then now from the remaining 2, since it's negative,
It's going to be in the
quadrant 4, you are correct. So we're going to draw it down here. That one's out because it was negative. And now TOA is opposite, adjacent. Negative 3, 7. And then what's that third side? Probably don't have that one memorized, right? So you go square root 49. And negative 3 squared is 9. And we are on the longest side, so plus. So that'd be 58, square root of 58. And I just remembered something from that other triangle that we did, and I just want to mention this in case anybody thought of this later. If that's 1 and this is 2x, the bigger side was 1. I never mentioned that. But do you get, by definition, a hypotenuse has to be the longest side? So really, that should have been the square root of, you should have put the 1 first. Just thought of that. Because it is a small thing, but it's the biggest side. So that should be first. Bigger number subtracted the smaller number. It should have really been this. Sorry about that, I just processed that. Okay, back to this. Now I've got my sides, and I just have to do cosine. Dylan, give it a shot.
Would it be 3 over square root of 58?
What's cosine defined as? What over what? Ka.
Negative 7 over square root of 58?
This is not negative.
I mean, sorry, 7.
There we go. 7 over square root of 58. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of people like, wait, something's wrong. I'm going to double check this. Cosine. Ka. Adjacent over hypotenuse. Isn't this the adjacent side?
Should be on the other side of the 3 should be on.
Oh, you mean like I put these numbers on wrong in the first place?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Rats. Somebody should have told me that earlier. TOA, opposite over adjacent. Opposite was 7, adjacent was 3. This one's negative. And now I've got my triangle right. Okay, now, Dylan, you probably were right for the correct triangle. My triangle was wrong. So would you say it again? Cosine is what over what? Adjacent over hypotenuse. So 3 over square root of 58. Sorry about that. And a lot of you didn't get suckered into raising your hand and agreeing with me because I had it backwards. But now, who had that? Okay, good. Okay, let's do another one. This one, also no X yet. The ones that have an X on one of the sides, they're coming. Like there would just be an X right here instead of a 3. It's just one of your sides is X. It's not that hard. Xavier, can you tell me, since I'm doing inverse sine, which quadrants can I be in?
2 and 4.
I'm gonna say it this way. There's one of those that you're saying different things than I'm expecting you to, and you might be talking about because it's negative. I'm not talking about whether it's negative or not. I'm just saying that it's inverse sine. So do you remember that deal with inverse sine that it's only allowed on this side? So then 2 and 3 are out. Maybe that's what you meant. Maybe you got your quadrant numbers confused, but okay. So now, of the remaining 2, Rissy, which one would have a negative side? A or C? All right. So A must be out because that's all positive numbers, and we have a negative. So then I'm drawing my triangle here. Please finish this one and compare with the kid next to you about the final answer. Once you've got all 3 sides of the triangle, then do cosine. All right, so we got our 3 sides labeled, -2, 3, and square root of 5. And then the cosine part was the adjacent over the hypotenuse. All right. Finally, we have got one where there's an X. Again, just like with a normal number, you gotta see that they gave you 2 sides. So put it over 1. They gave you 2 sides. Now, last hour, quite a few kids were able to figure it out from here without me showing you. I already gave you that little reminder of how to find the third side, where one of the variables is an x. Draw the triangle, label the triangle with like all three sides. You won't know the angles, of course. But once you got all the sides on there, you just got to find cosine. It's really not that bad. You can do this. Just to make sure you're in the right quadrant, inverse tangent is only allowed over there. And I can't see any negatives on this thing, so I'm going to draw it in the first quadrant. TOA, opposite, adjacent. If you started correctly, then compare your answer for the final answer, cosine of it, with the kid next to you. Oh, I messed up the X and the 1 again. So sorry. Thank you for catching me early, though. That's an X, that's a 1. Oh, don't understand. My brain was completely convinced they were in the other spots. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. This is the opposite side. So yeah, that's where the X should be. Okay, sorry about that. And now, compare with the kid next to you. Okay, so tangent is TOA, opposite over adjacent. Got them messed up the first time, but now they're in the right spots. And this last side is a plus because it's the longest side. And of these two, we can't tell which one's longer, but it doesn't matter because I'm squaring them and adding them. So it doesn't matter if I put them backwards. So this is x squared, and this is 1 squared, which is just 1. So might as well simplify it. And there's my third side. And cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so therefore it's this one over this one. So 1 over square root of x squared plus 1. Now, on the ACT, they're big fans of rationalizing, and that's a square root in the denominator. If you want to know, this is what you do to make it not a square root in the denominator. And this would make the square roots go away, and you'd have the square root left on top, and then the denominator would just be x squared plus 1. But you don't have to do that. You can leave your answer like this. How many of you would have had that one right? Cool. All right, I already gave you the kind of the twist, which is the 2x, and I made sure you remembered that you won't have a 2x squared. You'll have a 2x in parentheses squared in your answer. So careful with how you write this. This is the last one we're doing. Remember, page 7. Arctan of 2x is how you start. Only one place you could draw that. There's really two sides there. Remember, 2x is one of the sides. There's another side given. This is how I would start. Tangent is TOA, opposite over adjacent. So I'm pretty sure I did it right this time. 2x over 1. And then this last side would have to be 2x squared? No, 4x squared. Because when you square 2x, you get 4x squared. And then it's a longest side, so you say plus, and then 1 squared is 1. And there's that last side, which is really key. But the actual question is cosine. So then you just go adjacent over hypotenuse. So 1 over square root of 4x squared plus 1. Who would have had that right on the test? Cool. So you've learned the last thing. Now your worksheet is just the odds, which I think you're going to find goes pretty easy. You'll finish. You'll have some time to just relax, have your cell phones out. That's all right, as long as you're working. So get that worksheet done, just the odds. And please come up and ask me if you get stuck. That's all I got for you for today.